now, The Morgan Thomas Show. Brought to you by Black's Tire Inc.
What's up, everyone? It's The Morgan Thomas Show. I'm your host and producer, Morgan Thomas, and we have another amazing, fantastic, exciting show for you tonight. I hope you get in and join us. Like I said, get into the video, watch with us. Put your name, where you're from in the chat, and we're going to be talking about all things Clemson Tigers. We have a ton of great content tonight. Clemson basketball talk, Clemson football, and of course, Clemson baseball just coming off a big win today. And some news throughout the weekend that we want to get in, some good and bad for the Tigers. But if you're already in, thank you so much, whether you're on Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitter, or you're listening after the fact over on our podcast. We really appreciate the love and support. Again, we are multi-streaming not only on the Morgan Thomas Show Facebook page, but on the Roars Facebook page and on our YouTube page as well. So go check those places out. Make sure you like the video with a big thumbs up and share the video with another Tiger fan so that they can be a part of the show as well. Again, get in. Let us know your thoughts, opinions, emotional outbursts, complaints, whatever it may be. But we've got a great show tonight. Got a ton of people already in. Number one fan overall, Kevron Harris. Thank you so much, Kevron. Bill as well. Bill, I got to see Bill in person this weekend because I visited Four Paws and had lunch there with some family members and a friend there. Pouring down rain, but enjoyed it. Clemson Carson over on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Jordan, Kevron, again, Bill, John, and Al. Got a ton of people in. Speaking of Al, we need to bring in our co-host, special love of my life, Mr. Alan Adams. Welcome to the show, my friend. I forgot to say, I got to do your intro. Let's see. The only man in Clemson that can run backwards down the hill and not spill his frozen lemonade. Big Al, Alan Adams, welcome to the show, my friend.
Hey, you know what a fan of frozen lemonade I am, without a doubt. Doesn't matter if it's 30 degrees or if it's 80. I'm all for it. So, yeah, man, we got a lot of good stuff to talk about. Hey, we have at least something positive to say on every sports front tonight. So it's going to be fun. We got there's a little bit of negative in there we might want to talk about later on, but that's all right. We have to recap some of the South Carolina series as I did last night on the show with Corey. But it's great to be here as always, my friend.
Well, we'll be talking about that a little bit, just a little bit. But also want to get in our other co-host, Mr. Houston Burnett. Welcome to the show, Houston. Oh, by the way, I got to give you an intro as well. Let's see. The only man to listen to Ariana Grande before the show 17 times and still not have a headache. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I can make it through 2 of those, that's a miracle. I don't think I can do much less 17.
Well, I appreciate you guys getting in. I know you're loving some Clemson baseball. And again, we are going to talk about Clemson baseball, but we also have another special guest. Man, this is crazy. I know what you're thinking. Morgan Thomas going to have a guest on the show after all these weeks of being #no guests on the show. But you know what? Our technology allows it, and we want to invite our friends and discuss the one university that we all love. And tonight we have a special guest because a former player for Clemson University basketball team, Terrence Oglesby, is going to be joining us. He's actually waiting in the green room right now. So let's go ahead and bring him on because this is episode 100. So welcome to the show, T.O., for episode 100 for us.
I feel special. I'm not sure it's a green room. It's a pretty dark room. I got one light on in this place. I'm trying to make it work. But episode 100, man, I'm honored. You're doing a great thing with this show. It just continues to keep growing. And by the sounds of it, it sounds like you have a lot of support on your various platforms. So congratulations to you guys, man. The persistence pays off. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, talking about persistence, man, we're in our third season now, third year, aka season, and so 100 episodes spread out over 3 years. You know, with a little bit of COVID sprinkled in that kind of hung us up a little bit. We'd probably be way past 100 by now if we didn't have a little bit of a break as we did back in the spring. But everything's starting to get rolling. Obviously, we still have basketball going on. We still have football's picking up. Baseball is starting the season. Softball. I even see stuff on Clemson's Twitter about tennis and volleyball and all these other great spring sports that we love to talk about. And we're going to be talking about them tonight for sure. And that's why we got Mr. T.O. on to talk about the Clemson men's basketball team. We'll get started with that. But before I get started with that, let me tell you about our primary show sponsor, and that is Black's Tire Inc. Family owned and operated since 1971. If you need new tires, brakes, alignments, tire repair, or just looking for a friendly professional to answer your questions, stop by Black's Tire Inc., located 1415 East Main Street, Westminster, South Carolina. Give them a call, 864-647-9292. Tell Dale and Preston that the Morgan Thomas Show sent you. We, again, appreciate them for being our primary show sponsor, really, since day one. Just like Kevron, been as long of a sponsor as Kevron's been a fan. So we really appreciate the fans out there and the sponsors as well. Got Mark Childress watching, John Hansen, Clemson Carson, Kevron Harris, Al Kuhn, Bill Lanham, and a ton of others. Get in, let us know who you are and what you want to talk about tonight. John's already getting in there talking about Klubnik is a part of the Tigers now. We'll get into that too. So hang tight. But let's get into Clemson basketball first. And we've got a game, I believe, tomorrow night, actually. It's going to be, or tomorrow afternoon, 5 p.m. Against Syracuse. Now, this is going to be the last away game of the season. So there's 2 games left, guys. This is crazy. The basketball season, which it's been kind of shortened, right? I don't think it's exactly. Do they play a little bit more? I don't know. Tia, what's their normal amount of games that they play? Are they playing a little less, or is it the same amount of games this year?
Well, there's typically a couple of more non-conference games. So you take 2 off there. You take 2 off for the most recent COVID break, and then 2 off before they didn't perform so well for those 3. So they added 1 back. So I think typically they got 20. They'll end up with, if they're able to play these next 2, they'll end up with 22 games. And, that's about 4 or 5 off track to be 25, 26, 27 games, something of that nature. So very fortunate that they were able to get as many games as they were. It's, those guys, they stayed pretty disciplined as far as, staying to themselves and things of that nature. So right around that 24, 25 is typically where it would be. But they're going to end up with 22 and a shoe-in NCAA tournament team. I think a lot of Tiger fans ought to be very happy and pleased about that.
Yeah, it's a good thing you mentioned. Now, this away game in Syracuse, according to the BPI, which I know a lot of people don't really like ESPN's predictor because it's really not the best, but it is one of those things out there that I like to look at. But right now, they've got Syracuse at a 59.7% chance to win. It is a home game for them, so I think that's a factor in there because Clemson has already actually beaten Syracuse, and they had kind of a bad shooting night when they played Clemson the first time. And then again, they wrap up this season Saturday, actually. So 2 games this week. Saturday at noon against Pittsburgh at home. Last home game of the season. Clemson's actually a 75.8% predictor to win there. And Pittsburgh's not really doing good. I don't know what they're doing right now against Wake Forest, but they've lost 5 in a row. So got a team at the end of the season kind of reeling. Probability, numbers out there. Again, like you said, they're probably going to win 16, probably going to have lost at the end of the season 6. So 16-6, that's what they're thinking. So they may lose Syracuse, may win Pittsburgh, is what the predictors out there are. And that still puts them at 100% chance to get to the NCAA tournament, which is what you were saying, T.O. So do you think that is true? That is accurate, that Clemson will finish up 1-1 but definitely be 100% into the tournament?
I think they'll be 100% into the tournament. Now, look, Syracuse, they're 12-1 at home this season, as opposed to an away record that's just dismal. And teams that have been able to get up into Joe Girard and Buddy Boeheim have given them trouble, even at home. Now, Syracuse is a tough place to play. The Carrier Dome's old. It's not a very nice place. They say it's redone. I'm calling their bluff there. It's an old place in upstate New York that was falling apart for the longest, but it's a hard place to play. I mean, it's a football stadium, and it has a different feel and a different vibe than any other place in the conference. It doesn't belong in the ACC. It probably belongs in the Big East or something of that nature. It's kind of a strange fit. But here's the deal with Clemson playing up there at Syracuse. One, if they're able to guard like they have, they should have no problems because Syracuse doesn't really move the ball that well, and they don't run a whole lot of stuff. So they're going to have to sit and they're going to have to guard one-on-one. If they're able to do that, they should be able to win. And offensively, if they attack gaps, Clyde Trapp was fantastic last time they played them. I think he ended up with 11 assists on the day, which is a crazy number in college and a crazy number when playing for Brad because they play one of the slowest paces in the country. So if you're able to get somebody to penetrate gaps against that 2-3 zone, not so much pass it into the high post because then they have their matchups, but if you can dribble into that middle, then things kind of start to open up. And Clyde was able to do that last time. If he can do that this time, they should be in good shape. But you talked a little bit about Pitt. Like, Pitt had Xavier Johnson hit the transfer portal last week, who was a 15-6 guy. I mean, this is a highly talented kid. And then right behind him, I'll say Tony, who's averaging 15.6 boards. He transfers within 24 hours after him. So it's a team that's reeling, and it's a team you kind of wonder what's going on, if there's some kind of culture problem, if there's something that's really ticked off these star players, because they look to be trending upwards as far as talent was concerned. Capel's recruited at a high level. He's kind of started to get things going. And then 2 of his best 3 players leave. And that's the reason they've been struggling over the past 5 games, because they just can't seem to get it together. I'll tell you how good those 2 guys that are leaving. Kansas is the early favorite for Xavier Johnson, and SEC teams are all over. I just say Tony. So these are high-level guys that are leaving the program. But, they've got some guys behind him that can score. Justin Champagne's still there. That's a game they should win because now they no longer have a point guard. But they're going to have to show up to play because Pitt still has talent.
Yeah, I think it's important. You can't slack off the last 2 games of the season. A lot of people, a lot of writers out there were wondering what would Clemson do to finish out the season. How important will it be for them? Not getting complacent, knowing that they kind of have that predicted 100% chance to get in, unless the worst of worst happens. But Al, so what are your thoughts? We'll start with Al. We'll go to Houston. But Al, are you feeling confident these last 2 games of the season and excited to see what they can do in the postseason?
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, something we talked about a lot is how good they play defense. T.O. was mentioning it earlier, and that's a big part of their game. It's always been a big part of Brownell's philosophy for sure. And they seem to not be doing that out of that first COVID break. When they went on that slide that lost 4 out of 5, it was not a good looking defense. It was not a very inspired looking defense, and they have found their way back. We had talked about this team might struggle to make a deep run in the tournament simply because of their lack of consistent shooting. And they've even been doing a better job with that lately. Alamir Dawes has finally gotten it together and is coming to play, and he's been a huge factor in these last couple of games. I think Hunter Tyson has done a better job this year than he has in years past. He likes to slash to the basket a little bit now too. He got a few dunks under his belt, so he's been really good attacking the basket. I like what I've seen from him for sure. Amir Sims has stepped up. We gave him credit a couple of weeks ago. I wasn't thrilled earlier in the season with what I was seeing from him. I mean, he wasn't doing bad, but I thought he could do more, especially as a senior and as a leader of this team. But he's done a lot better too. So when all these puzzle pieces are seeming to kind of coming together at the right time, Alex Hemingway, he had a dry spell earlier as well, which I never thought I would see from him, and he has been killing it lately. So I think Clemson's in a good position, and if they can sustain the offense they've been playing and keep up the defensive intensity, yeah, I'm absolutely excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, Houston, you got to be excited about seeing the shooting like Alan was saying. I mean, I saw Hemingway, and that guy, when he gets hot, I mean, his shot just looks amazing. I really enjoyed seeing him knock down some of those threes against Miami.
Yeah, no, I think I've said this before. Clemson's got the talent to make a run. I'm not saying they will or anything like that. I don't want to be that guy, but they have the talent if they get back to what they were doing before. And if they're hitting shots and they're defending the way they are, they're doing well. My real question, this goes to T.O. Let's say Clemson's able to pull out a win against Syracuse and Pitt this week. What needs to happen for them to get a double bye for the ACC tourney? I know they're kind of behind Louisville at the moment, but what needs to happen there? So they're sitting there pretty, waiting to play, not play until like Thursday of next week.
I don't have the standings right in front of me, but I think if they win out, they get that double bye. Because I think they have the tiebreaker with Louisville. If I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So they have the tiebreaker with Louisville. They should get that double bye. But I kind of wanted to go back to what Al, you were saying about Clemson's defense being uninspired. I'm not sure I completely agree with that during that 3-game stretch, because the defense was fine whenever the defense could get back and get in front of them. The problem was was they were so out of sync. Because I went back, I do those little scouting reports before every game. In Georgia Tech, whenever they played them the second time, they got throttled the first time down in Atlanta. Well, they were turning the ball over, very uncharacteristic turnovers. Guys weren't in the spots they thought they were going to be, things of that nature. They go down to Georgia Tech, have 20 turnovers. Well, Georgia Tech's able to score off those turnovers because Clemson doesn't have the chance to get in front of them. When they had the chance to get in front of them and set their defense, Clemson's defense was pretty good. It's just the problem is when you don't play high possession games, those things can kind of get away from you whenever you have 20 turnovers, right? Yeah. So it's kind of I think like this team, I think the defense is always going to be there, which is a really good thing, especially come ACC tournament time, especially come NCAA tournament time. This team's going to be able to go as far as offensively they'll allow themselves to, because Hemingway, he played really well at Wake Forest, but if you look at the stats against Wake Forest, besides Alex Hemingway, that team was 2 of 17 3. This team has got to be able to shoot the ball better from the perimeter if they're going to win.
Yeah, you can see there against Wake Forest, 17 points, 5 of 6 from 3-point range. Yeah, I think they've got to have somebody out again. Always, you got to find somebody to step up outside of Amir Sims. He's the guy that is so consistent, been there for the team, leading almost in every stat category as he did last year. So that's no change there. For me, I don't know necessarily about defense, but I would say I like what I see with them almost playing. I don't know if you'd say, I'm not a big basketball guy as much as T.O. you are, but it seems like they're going to the inside, getting as close as they can to the basket more than in that stretch where it almost was like, yeah, these are open threes, but you almost, as a fan, were like, don't take it. I know it's open, but don't take it, please, because you're just not being consistent right now. And then whatever happened, they started to click and started to kind of drive to the basket more. They started giving it to Sims with his back to the basket more. And he started to get that confidence with his, little move that he does up and under the basket. And so I like what they're doing with trying to get, what they say, get the easy shots first. Are you seeing that too?
Yeah, they're playing inside out now. And the sweet spot for Clemson as far as threes taken per game is right around that 21 to 24 mark. If they get over 25 threes a game, that team starts to struggle, because that tells you that they're having a hard time getting into the paint and then creating something. Like, you got to think there's not really quote unquote a behemoth on Clemson's team, so they're going to have to work facing the basket more than just throw it down to Amir and get it done, because they're going to have to work off quickness a little bit more. And John Newman hasn't been a great rim attack guy this year. Hunter Tyson's been fine. The guy who surprised me with his ability to get to the rim and kind of create things has been Nick Honor, despite being he's listed at 5'10". I don't know that he's 5'10". Like, the more they put pressure on the rim, the better they are shooting the ball typically. But, it's a team like last year. Coach Brownell was talking a lot about, we're going to take a lot of threes. That's part of our identity. We have a lot of three-point shooters, yada, yada, yada. But then they settled a lot. And this year that hasn't been as much the case. They've been able to get inside. There's a difference between catching one and there's not very many guys who can do it. There's a difference between catching one running away from the basket and then catching one with a guy throwing it to you from the paint. You're stepping in. There's not a whole lot of movement getting to the shot, or dribbling into it like Alamir Dawes did on that particular shot, and Nick Honor did on a couple of his game winners. Like, there's big differences in the quality of three-point shot, and that's a thing that I think Clemson's really focused on for the better portion of this year. If they're able to get into the paint and create some paint touches and some rim pressure, defenses have to collapse because there's guys who can finish around there.
So we're getting in the chat here. Get in the chat. We got T.O. on, and he's talking about Clemson men's basketball tonight. We want to hear what you got to say over in the chat. We got a ton of people on already. Let's see. John gets in and says, can't understand why the Tigers aren't ranked right now. Texas Tech is, but not Clemson. You got any thoughts there, T.O.?
Texas Tech's had some huge games on national television, and they've won them in spectacular fashion. Whenever they were able to beat Texas, they got a lot of publicity. Look, ACC is not that good this year, boys. I'm just like, it's not the ACC that it typically is. The Big Ten is much better than it's been in a long time, and a lot of that has to do with, quite frankly, A lot of that has to do with North Carolina and Duke having these one and done players. And you didn't get that summer last year to where those guys could kind of adjust to your culture and what kind of things that you needed from your team in order to be successful. So what happened, the older leagues are better this year. So you'll see like the SEC's Kentucky's not very good, so the SEC's ACC still has some good teams that can make some runs. Florida State can do it. Virginia can make a run. I think Clemson, if they get the right draw, could be a second weekend team. I think that because they defend, and I think that because they have enough shooters to get hot for a weekend. And it all depends on fit. When you look at Texas Tech's a good team, and they've got length, and they're high-level defenders, and the Big 12 is really, really good.
I was looking up teamrankings.com, kind of get some statistics on this basketball team. They've had a 100% chance to get into the tournament for about a week and a half now. Before that, the week before that, they were at 99.7%. So they've been kind of a lock for about 2 weeks, at least according to that website. Again, projected 16-6 overall. They range between a 4 and 5 and 6 seed, but landing right now, high probability of being a 5 seed. 61% chance to make the 32, 25% chance to make Sweet 16. And some other stats that I thought were kind of interesting I wanted to get your thoughts on. Number 1 in the ACC in strength of schedule. This is, again, according to teamrankings.com. Also number 1 in the ACC according to Luck. And 4th overall in the nation according to Luck. Now,
I want to address Luck. I want to address Luck here in a second. But there's a reason though why it says it's lucky. There's a reason why it says lucky. And I think that stat is really skewed this season. But go ahead, keep going.
So that's what I wanted to get with is are they really the 4th most luckiest team in college basketball and the most luckiest team in the ACC? Another thing, you were talking about the ACC conference as a whole. Clemson is ranked 303 nationally in consistency, but second in the ACC in consistency. So that shows you the kind of consistent competition that they're getting in conference, is that they're one of the best, but nationally not. So those two things there. One, what's your thoughts on Luck, and what's your thoughts on consistency nationally versus conference?
Can we talk about schedule first? Because that's what you talked about first. Okay, so the schedule is such an obvious one. You play Purdue, who's playing well in the Big Ten. You beat Mississippi State, who's okay in the SEC, better than what a lot of people predicted. And then you beat Ohio State, who after they lost to Clemson rattled off 15 in a row. So it's a non-conference schedule that isn't I don't know if I'm supposed to say this word or not. It's not that sexy right at face value, but once you get to know her a little bit, sex appeal just goes through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Sex appeal just goes through the roof. So it's a very good non-con, and you know they did a fantastic job of scheduling, and they were able to play games despite all the cancellations and everything. So it definitely helps. The portion on Luck is an interesting one because I think the 3-game losing streak to Virginia, Georgia Tech, and Florida State was a fluke. I think the rest of the season is the team that is the Clemson team that they would have had for the direction of the season in a regular season. And what happens is because they played so stinking poorly during those 3 games, it skewed their stats an amazing amount. So if you remember, going into their game against Virginia, they had the number 1 ranked defense in the country. And in the KenPom, they were in top 10 in KenPom. After those 3 games, they shot down in the 50s because the numbers, the adjusted numbers, all that stuff just went down the toilet because they got beat so bad. And so I think those stats are severely skewed. I think the Luck thing doesn't really apply this year like it would in other seasons. And as far as consistency is concerned, if you take away one bad stretch, they've been one of the most consistent teams in the country. Just as far as a way they're playing, the manner in which they're defending, and the manner in which they're sharing the ball. And Amir Sims, it's funny, like when I do my show on Thursdays, I forget to talk about Amir because he's been so stinking good for so long. And like, I don't know what his numbers are right off top, but the last 2-3 games called on the radio with Munson or Kwok, like He's up there in that 2010 range, and he's passing it. Like, yeah, there it is. And he didn't really have to do that against Miami. Like, he just kind of figured he would. You know what I mean? Like, he's been so consistent, so good for so long, and he impacts winning. And he has a way of doing it without forcing it, to where, like, the guys know he's so reliable, and yet at the same time, guys feel comfortable enough to where they're like, I have to find a mirror. I can't take this shot. I have to find a mirror. But he makes us feel comfortable, and he really impacts winning. So there you have it as far as consistency. You take out those 3 games, I think your numbers are going to be outlandish. And I think because of those 3 games, the luck factor is a little bit skewed this season.
Yeah, I could see that. I agree with you for sure. And same thing with Amir Sims for sure. I mean, you know, like we mentioned before, he's been such a consistent guy, not just for this year. Only thing I am disappointed with him about is that he didn't keep his blonde hair. I was really looking forward to an entire season with blonde hair. He only had that like preseason. He didn't even have it for the games. And now I'm like, you know, when they were going through that losing streak, I thought, you know what he needs? He needs the Dennis Rodman like leopard print.
That was not at all what I was thinking. I was thinking that was Cisco. That was a Cisco look, man.
Let me say something. Let me say something about that. I don't know what was worse, Amir's blonde hair or Matthew Hurt's beard. Like, it's a toss-up. It's a toss-up. Like, I don't know which one's worse. But no, Amir, he need to get rid of that now. And his game is so good, he doesn't need to attract more attention than he already has. So, like, I thought it was crazy. I got a little mad at him. I was like, "You get it."
No, I'm all in. Let's get the purple leopard going on. Let's do that. And
yeah, I'm sure Brad's big on that too.
I didn't know where you were going with that, the beard part. We did have a football player that got kind of picked on about his facial hair too. So, but we won't mention that one tonight. But all right. So
I'm just I can't grow in it.
Basketball. That's Clemson basketball at a glance. Now you'll get more. T.O., you're still going to do your thing Thursday, right?
Yeah, Thursday at 7:00 it will air. We're actually going to tape that a little bit earlier. I'm going to actually try to have Gabe DeVoe. He's going to Skype in from Ukraine. We're going to share a couple of stories if I can get him on there. Last week he was supposed to get on last week, and then they had an away game pop up. They had some kind of cup game or something, so he couldn't talk last week. But we're going to try to fit him in next week. I'm doing my show is going to be. We're actually going to tape it at noon. And then, but for 2 reasons. One, it's a time difference, and 2, I'm doing Anderson's girls games that evening because they're in the playoffs too. So should be interesting enough. I'm excited to talk to Gabe and catch up with him a little bit because he's just a good old dude.
Is it when you go from playing at a high level university to the Europe leagues, is it kind of the equal same amount of level as far as like competition, as far as like college versus that league, or what would you say?
Skill level is much better in Europe. Not even close. Compared to Division I college, high level college ball skill level is still better in Europe. Athleticism in the ACC is rivaled only by the NBA, in my opinion.
Wow.
There's athletes all over the floor. You're being guarded by big, long bodies every night. That's not necessarily the case in Europe, but at the same time, it's a thinking man's game in Europe. So you're going to have to analyze pick and rolls, really hold guys off, and you see it from European guys that come over. Like, look at Luka Doncic. Like, he's much more athletic than he looks, but at the same time, he's 3 or 4 steps ahead of guys because he's been thinking that way since he was 14. Like, he played his first ACB game, which is the second best league in the world. He played his first ACB game at 14 years old. So, like, he's been 2 or 3 steps away for so long, or ahead for so long that, like, when he comes over here, he's like, yeah, sure, you're a little bit more athletic than me, but I'm just going to think my way around you.
Wow. Yeah. Again, we got Terrence Oglesby on, former Clemson basketball player, talking about Clemson basketball right now. Before we get into anything else, let's talk about another sponsor, and that is Charleston Sports Pub and their sponsorship of our show, 359 College Avenue, Clemson, South Carolina. Houston's got some thoughts on them. And as you can see there, they have Clemson legends dine there as well.
Yeah. If you're looking for a great place to eat, you got to check out Charleston Sports Pub. Listen to the reviews. Great food, great atmosphere, great customer service. Try their burgers every Monday for half price. Dine in, take out, or delivery 359 College Avenue, Clemson, South Carolina, or one of their other great locations in downtown Greenville, James Island, Mount Pleasant, Somerville, West Ashley, or Goose Creek. Upstate or low country, there isn't a reason you shouldn't try out Charleston Sports Pub.
And not just Charleston Sports Pub, but the Tiger Sports Shop. We don't just dress for success, we TS for success. This Tiger Sports Shop, Big Al, Houston, and I are all wearing gear from the Tiger Sports Shop. We shop there so much that they practically made us or forced us to be sponsors of their show, of their shop there. Stop by one of their 2 locations, 364 College Avenue, Clemson, South Carolina, 1102 Tiger Boulevard, Clemson. If you aren't in town, no worries, tigersports.com. As you can see, I'm wearing a Clemson Tigers Deshaun Watson jersey. Alan's got on some good threads there, and so does Houston.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Is Trevor Booker's jersey still up in the Charleston Sports Pub?
I'm
Because
not
there's
sure.
a story behind that.
We'll have to get Perry on. He's the owner, and we may or may not know him. But
is it a story is it an on-air story, or is this a story that can't be shared on air?
It is. It's well, Trevor was 21, so yeah. So, it isn't on. I mean, it's a fine story. It's just kind of funny. Somebody snitched on Trevor. So I think it was my freshman year. Trevor turned 21, and he goes down to the bar, and apparently he handed his jersey over the counter and started getting free drinks. The problem was it wasn't so much a problem because Trevor liked to go out, and that was fine. We didn't really care that much because he always showed up and did his job, and he never overdid it. That's a big portion of this. Trevor never overdid it, but somebody snitched on him and said he was drinking sweet tea till about 8 o'clock, and then at about 10:30, those sweet teas turned into cold beer. and OP was pissed. So OP got upset because that was what the email said to OP. It turned into cold. It wasn't warm. It was cold, and OP had to sit in front of the team and got really visibly upset at Trevor and was just like, "Dang, Book, what are you doing?" So he swapped out. He swapped out a jersey. That was his form of currency.
Jersey.
$1.20 beer for a jersey. So statute of limitations. I think it's 15 years ago now. This isn't Tattoo Gate. This isn't Tattoo Gate. This was $1 beer.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Nothing like the LSU locker room for sure. But, you got YouTube on here saying OPP.
No.
Bring it back to OPP. That's what we got for sure. Bill gets in, says, "Oh, no, T.O. said the S word. At least it wasn't the R word like Kip B."
What's the S word?
Sexy.
Sexy. You said a sexy word.
Oh, sorry, guys.
And then Carson said, "That'll be really cool. I like Gabe DeVoe, too." Yeah, so you got some people looking forward to it. Casey gets in, says, "Former Clemson student manager KP Peterson, Anderson's women coach." And when I went to Anderson for undergrad, I mean, the girls' basketball team was good back then too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, Casey was a former student manager back in the Rick Barnes days. So he was in there with Jameson and Boogie and all of them, kind of seeing it. So it was good. We talked a little bit about that when I went on Sluggo the other night. So he's getting in, shouting them out too.
Well,
T.O., I want to tell you, T.O., when the four of us are on the show, sexy is a perfectly acceptable word.
Well, I was about to ask, like, I don't know if I'm supposed to say that or not. But the funny thing was, I worked for a guy last year that he would say, like, "Man, that offensive set, that was sexy." And then I would be like, "Hey, coach," like, because I had a long relationship with this guy years and years and years, so we talked to each other differently than other coaches. And I'd be like, "Hey, coach, man, you use the word sexy in like some weird spots because I don't really know, like what we're doing." And he goes, "Well, it depends on what you find sexy." So I was like, "Hey," I didn't argue with him after that point. I was just like, "Hey, coach, it's your world. I'm living in it."
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought,
yeah,
and he blink or break eye contact, which made it even funnier. But it also got a little creepy in the office for about 30 seconds.
Oh man. I just want to know.
Did I make you uncomfortable, Morgan? Did I make you uncomfortable?
No, I
feel
just
like
want
I
to
made you
know
uncomfortable.
the two guys with the most hair are wearing the hats in the show. That doesn't make any sense to me right now.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. But no, it takes a little bit more. Mostly Alan embarrasses me, so none of my guests have ever embarrassed me. But actually, mostly Alan will tell you I embarrass myself enough. So you don't. But hey, Tio,
I'm not going to get invited back after this one.
Tio, I know you're the basketball expert and analyst. If you want to stay on, you can. I want to be respectful of your time. I know you got a bunch of basketball games to watch. You can stay on. We'll talk some Clemson football and Clemson baseball if you want to do that. Or I
want to ask you a question, Morgan. I want to ask you a question because I don't know what's going on. What's going on with Derion Kendrick? So, like, he was there for a little while, and he just and everybody's writing that he used all of his leash up. Do you have any inside scoops for us? Like was he just a turd? Like, I know you know more than what you're going to say. I know you know more.
That's where it ends.
I think you need to go ahead and say it. I think you just need to tell the people what they want to hear. I want to know what happened.
Now you have to stay on the show. Saying that, but you don't have a choice now. But yeah, I will say this. Dabo Swinney obviously came out. Let's just start with that. So, if you're not aware, I'm sure you are aware, but Dabo Swinney recently had to release Derion Kendrick, starting cornerback for the Clemson Tigers last year. Originally a 5-star guy from Rock Hill, wide receiver, came here, but then, the wide receiver group is very stacked, even again stacked this year, and had to make some adjustments. Now, he was praised at the time for basically taking one for the team and swapping sides of the field and becoming a defensive back. I also just started to really kind of latch onto him because I was like, man, this could be a Deion Sanders type guy. This could be somebody who could be, sneak up and be a wide receiver all of a sudden, but never got his chance to be a wide receiver really in any kind of legitimate playing time because Brent Venables said, no, you can't have him. We're going to keep him on defense because he's really that good. And I know a lot of people pick on him for his playoff performances. But if you go back and look, it's not all his fault. And really, a lot of it has to do with the over-the-top coverage. But he is definitely one of the higher-grade guys. And some of the saddest things that in this situation is January 18th was the cutoff for underclassmen. So there's March 1st, which is the senior cutoff for the NFL draft. January 18th is actually the cutoff for the underclassmen. So DK actually does not have a chance to now enter in the draft, which some people were saying that he could have been as high as maybe a high level round 2 guy. And so, that's debatable. Obviously I can see Houston's like debatable there, but he is definitely somebody who could have been drafted this year and is not going to have that opportunity, now has to transfer. We don't know what's going to happen with that. Is he going to be able to immediately transfer? Is he going to be able to, have to wait a year or something like that? I don't know. I don't know how it's all going to work out. But at the end of the day, Dabo Swinney came out and made his comments on it. And I want to read directly from him and not kind of paraphrase or anything. So when asked about DK's, situation off the field, and the decision to remove him from the team, Dabo said this: there's really not much to say about that other than he's not with us anymore. But I'd also like to say I love DK. He's a young man that I've always loved as a football player. He's got a good heart. He's got a really good heart. He's never been a disrespectful young man or anything like that. Just sometimes there needs to be a change. Just so thankful I had the opportunity to help him and hopefully make a difference for him in these past 3 years, and thankful for all of his contributions to the program. I will be pulling for him wherever his next stop is, and I will always be there for him. And there's not really much more I want to say about that. So obviously, Dabo Swinney still has DK really, and Dabo Swinney still has a strong relationship there. We don't know, that could be just PR. We don't know, but I don't believe it. I think Dabo Swinney says what he says from his heart, and he means it. So you have to trust kind of how Dabo Swinney treats people. And if you look at it this way too, and I'll let you guys get on this after this, but it's telling that it's this far. I hate that he's now not eligible to enter the draft, but it's so telling that this is his senior year. We know he's had multiple issues, and this is into spring practice. And, now we're almost in March and this happens. So I think from a fan's point of view, Dabo Swinney point of view, he's literally waited as far as he feels like he can go. I don't know how many more chances you can get. Unfortunately, I kind of wish that this would have happened before then he could have entered the NFL draft. But I also see DK wanted to come back. He wanted to play for Clemson. So it's definitely a tough situation. Now, what did he do? There's many rumors on TigerNet and the chat boards and the forums. There's many rumors out there with what he was getting into extracurricular wise, after hours, around town. I don't know. Or if it was, and there were also rumors about, just him in meetings and not showing up and things like that. And I don't want to, say any more on that because I don't know for sure. But it is a sad situation, tough loss for Clemson because it's not the only person that's going to have to that's transferring out, but it is the only one that basically has to transfer out. Big Al, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I mean, he's been, in these situations kind of on and off since he's been here. As Dabo quoted last year, he's put him in the love shack. That's what he was. He wasn't in the doghouse. He was in the love shack. So he's had some of these issues, and I don't know. I'm sure Dabo has a plan. Dabo always has a plan. He's very calculated in the things he does. I would imagine he had a list of things that, Derion Kendrick needed to do to stay on this team. I don't know whether it's, maturity-wise, just accountability-wise, or whether it's academic. I'm not really sure what the deal is there, but I would imagine he said, these are the things I need you to do. If you can do that, you're welcome. And I would imagine it was just kind of the final straw. He decided, he maybe messed up a little bit one more time. I don't think he's doing anything major, anything wrong like that, but, it's just kind of enough's enough. And it's disappointing because Kendrick had a lot of potential. I thought he could have worked his way into round one for sure, and it would have been nice for him to go ahead and go into the draft this year because I'll be honest, Georgia's looking for a lot of secondary guys, and I really don't want DK ended up there for obvious reasons. You don't want to have to play against them, and you certainly don't want any inside secrets to get over to Georgia since we played them game one. So that'd be kind of frustrating. But I just think it's kind of one of those deals where we're never going to know the whole truth, and we're going to have to be fine with it.
Houston, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, it's sad, and I don't want to make light of it in the sense that, it is very sad that he is off the team. I wanted him to come back. I wanted him to thrive. I think we all did, given that he came in this huge class in 2018 of a bunch of guys that were, pegged as one of the greatest classes Clemson's ever signed in football. And to me, at least last year, not only was it kind of – we were wondering whether or not it was the discipline issues. I've kind of heard through the same sources that it was some discipline issues that kind of kept mounting, but it also seemed like there were a couple games that he just wasn't there mentally. And some of the bigger games he was, but I mean, you think about games like Syracuse or maybe Boston College in the first half. I mean, he's supposed to be one of our lockdown corners, and he's getting blazed pretty quickly. And some of that was on him. Some of that was on other things. I know that defense had their struggles at times, but, you got to have somebody that's all in, literally. That's kind of what Dabo says. And if you got a guy that's not showing up for meetings, he's not doing what he needs to do outside of class or school or the team facility, and then he's kind of not there mentally, and then he's got all these chances and he's given these opportunities, and I'm sure Dabo created an action plan for him to get to where he needed to be. And if he didn't do that, then you just got to do what you got to do. And it stinks. I hate it, but that's just college athletics.
Yeah. I mean, it's life too. I think, things happen where you get removed from a job. I mean, hey, I've lost a job before, and it ended up being a better thing for me because I got out of a situation that wasn't good and got into one that was better, ended up being better. And so maybe this is one of those situations where he can get away from whatever's troubling him, and he can go to a place, hopefully across the country, away from Georgia, away from South Carolina. No, I'm just kidding. I want him to go where he feels comfortable, where his family can still enjoy watching him play, just not in Georgia or South Carolina. So North Carolina.
Man, you guys are nice.
Do what?
you guys are nice. Like you guys are nice. I'm sitting here listening to this. Like I hope the kid does great and everything too. But I'll give credit to Debo. Like this is a first team all conference dude, and he's not upholding your standards. What does that say to the rest of your team? So like you let this kid slide. What does that say to the rest of your team? I don't know what the deal was. I don't know what the deal is, but Dabo's pretty forgiving, but he's also an absolute dude when it comes to culture. And everybody knows the term dude. Like, hey, he's just a dude. Like, he's one of those. Like, hey, guys that just can't, like, they're just different than everybody else. And what does that say to the rest of your guys if one guy's, I'm not calling him a turd, but I'm calling other individuals that are culture ruiners. I'm calling those guys turds. I don't know what happened. That's the reason I'm asking you, Morgan. And you never answered my question, Morgan. You never told me what he did. But my question is like, you have all these freshmen, you have all these loaded recruiting classes. Like your 2021 class is unbelievable. You got Shipley and all these guys, all these 5-star kids coming in. You got Breezy in the class before. You got all these guys. What you're telling them is, hey man, I don't care if you're first team all conference. I don't care if you're, I don't know I don't think he was an All-American, but I don't care. You better be part of what we're building. If you're going to be a turd, you're going to be a turd somewhere else, probably at Georgia. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of where we're at. And, you guys say, oh, I hope he doesn't go to Georgia. He can't cover all of them now.
Right, true.
He can only cover one of them at a time. So, I'm not as worried about that.
Well, speaking of covering, you're right. And also there was some other news in there too, that Justyn Ross, now this could be just Dabo pulling our chain, giving us something to talk about. Play the slot. This could be Dabo just giving us something to talk about in the spring. But Justyn Ross is going to play in the slot position. Now, I don't know if I believe this. All right, so I just talked about Dabo's, not gonna lie. He's gonna say, he's not just coach speak, but Justyn Ross at the slot position. All right, so 6'4", 205 pounds. We'll start with T.O. and go around Houston, Big Al. So T.O., did you have any thoughts on that? So this guy normally would be the outside guy. I was thinking it'd be number one outside guy. Mike Williams type guy. Big jump up and go get it kind of guy that he was in the national championship in San Francisco. Now going to play the slot in a Larry Fitzgerald type move. Did you have any thoughts on that?
Can I try to equate this to basketball terms?
Yeah, that's how you speak.
Like here's what I would do if I had a dude who was such an athlete, and I just needed to find ways to get him the ball. Wouldn't I just move him inside, outside, around the baseline? Would I not sense for him to get in position where he wouldn't have as much help? Like you put him in the slot and use his speed against some linebackers. I mean, doesn't that make sense? Guys, I'm not a football guy, but like I'm sitting here, I'm thinking about like what he is, and he's obviously an unbelievable athlete. You need to get your best players to touch the ball as much as possible. Because I'm sitting here thinking like, well, in the slot, typically isn't that like the 5'10", super quick guys that can get open in tight spaces? Is he that guy?
Well, I'll say when you look at NFL, and this is something I noticed, when you look at NFL receivers that are top ranked slot receivers, Golden Tate 5'10", Willie Snead 5'11", Tyler Lockett 5'11". Larry Fitzgerald is the odd man out because he kind of got older, and then they picked up D-Hop, and so he moved to the slot. 6'3", Chris Godwin 6'1", and Cooper Kupp 6'2". Houston, what do you think? You think it's odd that he's a 6'4" guy? You think he's just pulling our chain? This is really going to happen?
No, it's really going to happen. I think this is the first domino of what I was saying. You need to go send your best coaching staff to go observe Joe Brady in Charlotte and Sark in Texas. And I think the idea is you've just gotten torched by Jamar Chase, Chris Olave in the last 2 years, and you watch Devontae Smith torch Ohio State in the national championship game. They got the ball to their best player. And it didn't necessarily have to be the guy in tight spaces. Jamar Chase was the dude. I mean, he made A.J. Terrell, who was a second-round draft pick, look like a JV corner. And that was all night long. Devontae Smith made Ohio State's defense look like a JV defense all night long. They didn't line them up on the inside always. They were on the outside. They were on the inside. So this is going to vary. It's just an opportunity to get some of your talented other wide receivers in Ngata, Ladson, a Joe, who is a freak of nature, and some of these talented freshmen who apparently sound really good, a chance to get on the field. And E.J. Williams. You have Justyn Ross's teammate playing alongside of Justyn Ross from high school. So you have all these deep wide receivers. You got to figure out how to get them the ball because they're going to be dangerous. And this is just one move that you can make to really, really cause havoc on a defense come September.
Yeah, I know. I totally agree. I think the fact is they're trying to get their three best receivers on the field. Justyn Ross is, of course, one of those. I think the other two potential-wise is Frank Ladson and Joseph Ngata. I've been bullish on Ngata from the very beginning, even though he stayed injured this whole time. I think he's got a lot of potential. Frank Ladson is a more of an outside guy. I know he's got quick twitch. He's got long speed, so you want him to stretch the field on the outside. I think that's kind of where Justyn Ross fits in the slot is because, look, he is a matchup nightmare. But I don't want to go too far with it. I want to temper fans' expectations a little bit because we'd had this experiment a couple of years ago with DeAndre Overton. He was going to be our slot guy. He was going to be the 6'5" slot guy, and nobody was going to be able to cover him. Well, that didn't last very long. It didn't work. Now, in fairness, Justyn Ross is a little bit different athlete than Overton was. Overton was just a long receiver. Justyn Ross has length, but he's got a little thickness and he's got more wiggle. He can get in and out of his breaks a lot faster. So his body type and his ability is more suited to the slot role than Overton was. So if you're going to make an oversized guy work in the slot, Justyn Ross is that guy.
And I think so something that popped up when you guys are talking, and Dabo Sweeney mentioned this about, kind of what T.O. was saying. You got a guy like this, you can't keep him off the field. And I looked in the sense of what NFL teams were doing and what other teams were doing when they had multiple strong wide receivers out on the outside. And a lot of teams do this. So this is not uncommon, but it also turns into teams doing a lot more 4 wide receiver set. Now we know they could do a 3 wide receiver plus 1 tight end. We know Clemson can do that, but I'll spin the round table back around and start with Big Al on this. Do you feel like that will happen? And this is maybe a hint that Clemson could be showing that their running game's not as strong. And so they're going to pump up their wide receiver, their passing game, and stack that versus, not stacking the running game. Because obviously you lost Travis Etienne. And obviously on the other side, the wide receiver, if you look at the wide receivers that they have on this roster, I mean, you can't play all of them. You can play most 5, but you're probably not going to put 5 out there every single play.
Right.
You're going to need to be playing at least 4 most of the time. At least 50% of the time, you got to have 4 out there. I'm sorry for the tight ends, but the wide receiver group is back to wide receiver U. My only concern is this a hint that maybe the running game is going to be weaker than we hope?
I don't necessarily know about that. You want to go ahead, Tio?
I just want to ask a question. I just want to, because you brought up tight ends, and that was curious to me because he's such a big wide receiver. Like, is he a good blocker to where he would be able to block some linebackers in the running game? Because if that's the case, that changes the whole thing.
Are you still talking about Ross, Tio?
Yeah, I'm talking about Ross. You were talking about the running game. I went from A to D to B to C, so I did.
Good. I like it.
Yeah, so I'm serious about like that because he's bigger and obviously he's a big physical guy. Like, Is he enough blocker to where you can take a tight end off the field and plug him in the slot, and then you don't necessarily lose a whole lot of blocking in the run game?
I think that's a potential. Yeah, absolutely. I think he's always had some thickness. I think he had some thickness to him when he came in. And heck, to be honest with you, you don't necessarily have to have that thickness. I've seen some, real skinny guys who are just really physical in the run game, and they like that contact. And I think Ross could definitely be that guy for sure. And to Morgan's point, I think Clemson's going to throw the ball more this year. It's not necessarily It is because they lost Travis Etienne. Travis Etienne was, the generational talent at running back, and we all know that. We all saw Travis and what he was able to do. I think our running game is going to be fine. I think we're going to be able to pass the ball a little bit more. I think whether it's Lynn J. Dixon, whether it be Ches Malusi, Kobe Pace, one of the many running backs we have, I think we're going to be just fine in the running game. DJ's going to run the ball as well, and he's going to be a little bit different style maybe than a Trevor Lawrence, of course. He's going to be more like a Taj Boyd, something like that probably. He's a lot bigger guy. But, I think the running game is going to be fine. I think the passing game is going to be able to open up the run, and we may see more success running than we had this past year with Travis Etienne.
Yeah, I have a tendency to agree with that. I also think that you don't necessarily have to have a traditional running game to have a successful running game. Case in point, 2 years ago, 2019 LSU, Clyde Edwards-Helaire became a first-round draft pick, and he wasn't your stereotypical let's hand him the ball. They got him the ball out of the outfield similar to like a Darren Sproles. I think you're going to see that a lot this year, considering that you have Lynn J. Dixon, who can catch the ball very well out of the backfield. Ches Malusi, we have yet to see him catch the ball, but if he does, he's got the giddy up to do it. And then you have the talent of Will Shipley and Phil Maffa, who could both end up doing that, especially Shipley. He looks kind of like Christian McCaffrey. I think he could be fine catching the ball out of the backfield. So just because it's not traditional doesn't mean it won't be successful. I think you'll pass to set up the run, and I think it's going to be one of these things where maybe Clemson comes up and try to hammer you with the pass, and then by the end of the game they're breaking your back with a Kobe Pace or something to end the game, and it's just the multiple sets that get you mixed up.
And I think it's great that they have C.J. Spiller as the coach, as you see right there on the screen, because even Lynn J. Dixon mentioned it. Tony Elliott's a great coach. As far as running back coaches go, Lynn J. Dixon said that he loves him as a coach. But on the flip side, C.J. Spiller has been there. It's the same difference as T.O. talking about basketball. He's actually been there. There's a lot more value in that versus somebody who's learned it at a high level. I'm not saying that, Tony Elliott hasn't, but it does give a lot of insight to these young players and players that are trying to get to the NFL, that there's a guy that has made it to the pros, that has had to kind of try to adjust his game, also had to fight through injuries and things like that. So I think CJ is going to bring a big improvement to the group. But I do agree with you guys too. It seems like we're leaning more toward committee. I'd love to see Lynn J. Dixon get his fair share because he's waited so long. I think he deserves his shot to be that star guy. But I also see that there's a lot of guys that are young that not a lot of people know their name yet, but we may find out their name because of that running back by committee opportunities that are out there. But again, to my point, I do just feel it. You know how I said last year, when there's smoke, there's fire. I feel like there's a little bit of a hint that this is going to be more of a pass-heavy team, and they're going to try to kill you in ways that are unconventional. And going back to unconventional, exactly what Houston said, using that Edwards-Helaire type thing, using the I would love to see. I mean, I saw the Super Bowl. I would love to see plays like that where you're basically running the same freaking play, but you're motioning everybody all over the field, so it looks like a completely different play. But it's actually the same routes, but a different lineup or a different formation or a different motion. So I think that's a way to make it more complicated for the defense, but less complicated for the offense. So that's my thing is same routes, different look. I think Clemson should take note of that. I think any team, really, if you see what Kansas City was able to do, I think you should be able to you want to try to emulate that for sure. So really, we're at the 9 o'clock hour, guys. We didn't get to talk about Clemson baseball, but one good thing is Alan talked about it Monday night. Right. So Al, give us a little hint. Why should our fans, if they haven't already watched, why should our fans go watch the Monday night show that you did with Corey?
Yeah, look, and apparently I didn't share it like I was supposed to across the interwebs. Okay, so we didn't have quite the viewership we did the last week. I didn't realize that you had gone behind my back and done it the week before. But look, it was a great show. We talked about the South Carolina series. That was a little tough. Something Clemson fans wanted to see. I talked about the philosophy, the small ball versus the long ball philosophy, which we seem to play. And how I disagreed with that entire philosophy. I think we need to play to our strengths, and right now, hitting the long ball is not it. I like how South Carolina approached their at-bats at the plate. I thought when they got 2 strikes, when they got 2 outs, they were choking up on the bat. They were making contact with the ball. We talked about the umpires and how atrocious they were on Saturday. Oh, my gosh. If y'all did not see that game on Saturday, thank God. Okay, it was terrible. It was by far the worst behind the plate umpiring
This is
I've
a
ever
strike,
seen.
right? Right at the eyeballs. Eyeballs is a strike.
Doesn't matter. Didn't really matter where it was, and it changed every inning for both teams. It was bad on both sides. I don't want to say Clemson lost the game because of umpiring, because that wasn't it. Clemson did have a couple of very crucial calls and very head scratching calls go against them when they were had guys on base, and that was kind of tough. But they had their chances, and they just couldn't capitalize. So I thought the pitching did okay. They did all right. They brought in a couple of guys, and Matt Clark, who's been our most dependable reliever, really got roughed up on Sunday. It was the right call. Monty Lee, in my opinion, made the right move to bring him in when he did. Corey and I were talking about that as well. And sometimes you can make the right call and it not work out, plain and simple. So I will give him credit for that. And he did put a squeeze on. I've been begging for the squeeze for about, 5-10 years, it seems like. We finally put one on. It worked to perfection, so that was good to see. But I think we need to see more of that kind of thing. So it's going to be fun to see this team going forward. I'm more optimistic than most after losing 2 to South Carolina. We did get the win tonight against East Tennessee State. I think we're going to be better going forward. I think this pitching has the potential to carry this team while the offense finds itself in whatever, however we work out the order with the new guys and the freshmen and the guys coming back from injury and that kind of thing. So I'm definitely looking forward to the rest of the season.
And before we go, I want to finish up with our final 2 sponsors of the night. We always love them and want to give them some support too before we head out. Daniel Weber State Farm. Al, you got?
I got it. I'm ready to rock and roll. So for all your insurance needs, call Daniel Weber State Farm. The team is located in the heart of Clemson, South Carolina, and our goal is to protect, educate, and serve our customers and community. We specialize in auto and home insurance as well as life insurance and health insurance. Our goal is to protect your family and your finances. Give us a call today at 864-722-9083. Again, that number is 864-722-9083. Here's a recent 5-star Google review. Katie and Nikki and Daniel, you guys are the best. Really helped international students like us and super patient answer all my questions and explain every single detail to me. The best insurance branch forever. Solve problems really quick and being so nice to handle all these things without letting me worry about anything ever. Love State Farm and love Daniel Weber branch. 5 stars, recommended to all my friends and anyone reading this, no doubt. So get in touch with Daniel Weber. He's a good friend of ours, and he'll take good care of you. Also, lastly, I want to talk to you about Heating Cooling Services, Inc. They're family-owned and operated, serving Anderson County and surrounding areas since 1980. Heating Cooling Services, Inc. is your residential and commercial comfort expert. Anything from preventative maintenance of your home HVAC system to overhauling a commercial chiller or anything in between. If you want to breathe easier and be nice and cool in your home or business this summer, or warm and cozy in your home or business this winter, give Heating Cooling Services, Inc. a call. Their number is 864-224-7655. You're going to want to talk to Mark or Jason Trammell. Again, that number is 864-224-7655. They are good people, and they will take good care of you. Make sure you tell them the Morgan Thomas Show sent you.
And we got our schedule as the last part of the night. We will be getting into, again, if you got baseball questions, you got baseball conversation, Al's show on Monday. Houston's going to have some videos later on in the week. And then we also, we will be getting into, I just lost the train of my thought on there, but we're going to talk about the schedule. That's what we're going to get into the schedule and tell you what's coming up this week and throughout all Clemson's athletics. So we got Clemson basketball Wednesday, women's basketball Thursday, and then baseball coming up. Notre Dame looks like Friday. It's a weekend show. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday is going to be Notre Dame, and then men's tennis, Georgia Tech, and softball going to be playing Virginia this weekend as well. So excited to see what Clemson can do this weekend. Tons of stuff going on. Obviously, Clemson football still practicing on their end. But T.O., oh, by the way, that's what I was going to say. I remembered it there, Big Al. But we didn't talk about, this is already in here, Cade Klubnik. Did you say it right? Did I say it right? Klubnik?
I've heard both. I've heard Klubnik and Klubnik.
Houston,
Where's he from?
what is it?
It's Cade Klubnik.
Cade Klubnik.
Cade Klubnik. That's officially from Marty, the seldom used reserve. He's seen him play a few times this year. Cade Klubnik commits 4-star out of Westlake. I love it. I mean, I know Clemson didn't get Ty Simpson, and a lot of people are disappointed, but I like this kid's film. I know that some people are on the fence, but I just like it. He's got a gritty. I think this is a terrible analogy, but he just reminds me of Connor Shaw. got a gamer kind of vibe to him. I couldn't stand Shaw in college, but dadgummit, he just knew how to win. And that's just what this kid kind of exudes. And, I mean, when you're a 6A state champion and you just beat the number one recruit in the nation by 20-something points, then you got to be pretty good.
I'm surprised you didn't say, you said a gamer. I'm surprised you didn't reference our special guest tonight as a gamer.
I mean, also, this is football terms. I'm sure T.O. was also a gamer on the football field as well. I don't know that for a fact, but
I was throwing the ball every time. They couldn't trust me. I was Hail Mary. Maybe I was Hail Mary. I was a quarterback. They got tired of going long every time.
Well, that's why you start. No wonder you shot 3 so many times. So,
it's a mentality. It's a mentality.
Yeah.
So you look at this guy, 14-0 record last year, number 3 high school team in the country. So obviously he's had high level of competition. So guy can compete. We'll have some more analysis on him as the week we get later on in the week. Houston and I might throw together a quick analysis later on this week if we have some time. But before we go, I want to give you your time to shine and let our fans know how they can follow you or catch you later on this week or throughout the week or what you're going to be doing and let our fans know.
Guys, I got about 2 or 3 more shows. I'm going to go all the way through the NCAA tournament, and on Thursday nights at 7:00, that's when it airs. It's Beyond 22 basketball. I do it with Facts and Childress. We break down film. We talk about standings in the league. We talk about Clemson quite a bit. So it's an all-conference type of ordeal, but with an emphasis definitely on the Tigers. So I think a lot of people would enjoy it, especially moving in towards postseason. As far as other things are concerned, I've done over 35 games this year, either as color commentator and play-by-play. I've stayed busy, and it's not getting me to talk. It's getting me to shut up, as you guys have learned today. We're at about 1 hour and 10, and I'm making Morgan uncomfortable. But I appreciate you guys having me on. It's a lot of fun, and I just can't wait to think about Justyn Ross and on the inside and God on the outside and running 4 verticals and making this secondary think about some things. So that'll be interesting.
Nah, T.O., when you were first on the show, I think it ran about 3.5 hours. I think it was longer than Titanic, is when you and I were on the show. We were just back and forth. And Mark Childress said, "Hey, don't do that again. Don't do that again." So yeah. I'm trying to listen to Mark and take his advice. But again, Tiger fans over on Facebook, YouTube, and wherever you may be watching or listening, thanks again for being a part of the show, getting in the chat, letting us know where you're from and what questions you have. We'll try to get more guests and try to bring T.O. back on if he'll have us, and we hope that you have a good rest of the week. But again, always Tiger fans, we will see you at the top of the hill.